Casino, you're gonna lose all your money. Bitcoin will be around $1 million. I want to start rotating into some high quality shit coins. I don't think every single altcoin just goes up, 100x. I don't really see why those should do well in the next cycle. If they have no clients, no revenue, no reason why your token should be bought. We've been in a bull market since November 2022. Gold could be $10,000 to $20,000 by the time we finish with this rally. Ethereum could outperform Solana in this next sort of 18, 24 months.
Hello guys, so we are now in Dubai just before Token2049, and here with you Anna Tutova, CEO of Coinstelegram, and our legendary guest Artur Hayes, who is co-founder of Bitmex, and currently he manages his family office fund, Maelstrom, and he seems always makes the right predictions. So he told you to sell your assets, to sell your Bitcoin. He was very bearish in January when everybody was so bullish, but now it seems he is right. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just yesterday, U.S. Department of Treasury announced the estimates borrowing of more than $391 billion. So we expect the high liquidity on the markets. So can you tell more about this? They should have as well some more updates tomorrow, 30th April. So how do you see the effect on the market from this?
So it's a bit confusing, the recent results, because we are in a period of the debt ceiling. So the U.S. government cannot borrow net more money. There's various different ways in which they can spend money and still remain underneath the debt ceiling. The first is the Treasury general account, like their checking account. At the start of the quarter, I believe they had something around $750 billion in it, and now it's around 450 odd billion. And so that means they spent money to fund the government. In addition, they have this bucket called extraordinary measures. It's a bunch of government programs in which they can underfund and again, spend more money to fund the government. So taking these three things into consideration, we can come up with an effective borrowing. And I actually was going through the math before this interview, and it appears that while, if you read the press release, it sounds like, oh, the US government is borrowing less money. When you add back all these other factors, if we take a look at first quarter of 25 versus first quarter of 24, it looks as if on the first pass that the government is actually borrowing more money than they were in the same period of last year. Now, I'm not exactly 100% sure on this. I've pinged some analysts who are a lot more in the weeds on exactly how the Treasury funds itself during a debt ceiling period, but I wouldn't really take what you read as gospel, because again, it's unclear whether the Treasury is borrowing more or less because we have this extenuating circumstance of the debt ceiling. Last year in January to March, we weren't in a debt ceiling situation, so it's very easy to understand exactly how much the government is borrowing and they're spending. The one reason why I think that the market is really underappreciating how much the Treasury is borrowing based on reading this recent announcement is if you look at the monthly data released by the Treasury, I think it came out a few weeks ago, January to March of 2025, they're borrowing 22% more than they were at the same period of the previous year. So the deficit is higher. So I would expect them to be somehow borrowing more money to fund the government, even if the headline from the recent quarterly refunding announcement says that, things are better than expected because they're borrowing less. So again, I think we're going to need to see some people who are a little bit more in the weeds on exactly how the Treasury funds itself, what their opinion is of this, to come to a conclusion as to whether this is good or bad for the amount of dollars entering the system.
Yeah, and as well, I see a lot of your tweets, like you explain in macroeconomic situation and etc. And a lot of people are asking Grok to explain what it is. So can you explain what's the current market situation like to 5 years old, and what are U.S. government actions, and what are the consequences of their actions now?
So I think the big change recently is the talk of a Treasury buyback. So Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, went on an interview with Bloomberg about, I think, April 10th or 11th during the whole tariff tantrum situation. And the interviewer asked him, do you have any tools at your disposal to sort of help the U.S. Treasury market function normally? Because obviously we saw yields rise like 50 basis points over 2 trading sessions when stocks were cratering, and the volatility in the market was up. And so the question was, does Bessent have the ability to do something to help the market? And he said that he had this ability to do increased buybacks. And so what a buyback is when the Treasury issues a new bond and then uses those proceeds to buy an old bond. And the reason why this helps the system is that a lot of hedge funds put on an arbitrage trade. They buy a cheap bond and they sell a Treasury futures contract against it. They take the bond to the bank and they obtain financing for that. Now, the bank is going to give you more financing if it's the liquid on-the-run bond, the newest issued bond, versus a bond that's a little bit older. So if the Treasury is going to take a lot of these old bonds off the balance sheet of the banks and these hedge funds, then they're able to use more leverage to buy more Treasury securities at auctions. And I believe that the US government has to borrow more money than what we think, and therefore Bessent will have to issue more debt, and therefore he needs to find a way for these individuals to obtain as much leverage as possible through the banking system. And ultimately that means that there's more dollars floating around in the world because the US government is spending more money on stuff. And so that's kind of the TLDR on what a buyback is and how I believe it's positive for liquidity in the market, and which is why I think Bitcoin bottomed in that April 9th and will continue much, much higher as the government continues to borrow money and Bessent does what is necessary to make sure they're funded at an affordable rate.
Yeah, thank you for explaining. So whose policy is better, Janet Yellen's or now Scott Bessent? So
they're the same.
Is it the same? Did you sell your Bitcoin back in January and all assets?
We were underweight crypto from about January 20th until late March, early April. And now we're mostly fully invested, mostly in Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin dominance is going to continue to rise, maybe to somewhere around the 70% level. And then we're going to start rotating into some high quality shitcoins that we like.
Yeah, so which point should Bitcoin reach so that alt season starts? And what will be the factor for the start of alt season?
I think Bitcoin needs to go above 110,000 and on increasing volumes, maybe it reaches 150, 200,000, whatever that level is, I'm not sure. But I think that happens sometime in the summer or early third quarter. And then the rotation starts into various altcoins.
So do you think it will be just like a slight pump of altcoin, or will it be like back in 2021 when we saw like crazy alt season super cycle?
I don't think it'll be like 2021. I don't think every single altcoin just goes up, 100x. I think people are a little bit more discerning in what they're actually going to invest in. We'll have a new narrative, whatever that is, of something new that people are going to try to trade, and it'll trade at some crazy price. But the old coin, the dino coins in your portfolio that probably aren't moving for a reason. And I think a lot of those coins, for the same reasons, like high FDV, low float, no customers, no revenue, just some sex listing that went down 95%. Like, I don't really see why those should do well in the next cycle.
So revenue and profit is important.
I think that people are going to believe that is an important metric to finally look at if you're a project that hasn't already launched. If you've been around for 2 to 4 years, well, you've had a chance to prove the white paper. What have you done? How many clients do you have? Has it grown? Do you have protocol revenue? Do you have profit? Have you been able to increase the uses of your platform apart from just giving away free tokens? So I think most projects out there have not been able to achieve those things, and as such, the token price is not going to do that well.
Yeah, but I feel like so many projects, even with Taiwan investors, like super top team, they have like extra high valuations of over $1 billion or a few $1 billion, but they don't have any revenue like a lot of different layer 1s, layer 2s.
That might be
they
the
won't
case.
survive
They'll survive, but if you're going to buy a 1 billion FDV project, you want it to go to 100 billion, right? That's very difficult to do. Just law of large numbers. So why would that particular project do well if they have no clients, no revenue, no reason why your token should be bought? Sure, they had a great listing a year ago, 2 years ago, but if I'm going to deploy capital today and you're overpriced, you're not going to be able to go up as much as, maybe something that's $100 million market cap, but actually has traction, clients and revenue and whatever, that can easily go to 10 billion and you'll make more money.
So what projects and altcoins are you betting now on?
So we're super positive on Pendle. So the largest sort of fixed income protocol. It's been around for a long time, very, very high TVL, makes money, has a lot of DAU. I think it's probably one of the best projects out there. I think they're going to do very well. EtherFi, another one of our projects that we invested in. We're also an advisor. They just rolled out their new EtherFi cash card, which most people I think around the world will be able to onboard with. And now you can use Apple Pay or Google Pay to just tap your phone, tap your card, and spend your stables, spend staked ETH. You can borrow against your ETH, all for very affordable fees that are being charged through that particular offering. So I think EtherFi is a great project that's number one, is already profitable, and will continue to increase our profitability as more users use these sort of very simple but powerful banking products that are supported with crypto rails.
So you're mostly betting on DeFi sector?
For now. I don't know what the new hot coin narrative is going to be this cycle. When it's there, we'll trade it.
What are your thoughts on crypto and AI?
I think obviously that narrative has been beaten to death a lot. There'll definitely be agentic AIs that are going to use crypto. I don't know how that's going to work, so we'll see.
So do you use yourself a lot of AI agents or not really?
Not yet. I have seen some people starting to build agents that are hopefully going to interact on DeFi applications and blockchains. I think the big issue is errors. So obviously we can't have any errors if they're dealing with your money. It needs to be like 99.99999% accurate in terms of, if you give it an instruction, it does what you tell it to do. We're nowhere near close to that yet, but we'll get there quickly. And when we do, then that's going to open up a lot of trading opportunities for people.
Mm-hmm. And as well, last time when we made interview with you back in September, you told that you didn't have any meme coins, but just after that I saw you tweeting a lot about different meme coins, and it was like you felt like some influencer shilling those meme coins. So what are your thoughts on the meme coins now? Will they be back? Will they have a chance?
I mean, there will always be meme coins. I think there's still thousands of meme coins created every day. I think it's going to be a lot harder to get people to trade them and buy them because people lost a lot of money trading these things. And so they learned it's a casino. You're going to lose all your money, most likely. It's very difficult to outperform. There'll be some standout meme coins. I don't know what they are. I'm not really sort of deep in the meme coin degen landscape. But if something really pops from 0 to 100 million market cap and has a good volume and trend, then I'll trade it.
So did you get rid of your meme coins by now?
We don't own any meme coins right now.
Do you plan to, or it will depend on
Depends on the price action.
So what's good return for you on this market? Like what price targets, what returns do you target usually?
Need to beat the return of Bitcoin. So if we're going to deploy capital, it needs to outperform Bitcoin. That's the benchmark.
So what projects may outperform Bitcoin, or what you mentioned, EtherFi, Pendle?
Yeah, I mean, EtherFi, Pendle, those are probably our two top picks right now. There'll be other things that will appear in the ecosystem that we think are great value. And obviously that really depends on price, right? So it could be a great project, but the price is just too high for us to make a return that's better than Bitcoin. Not to say it's a bad project, but everyone's different in terms of what their hurdle rate is as an investor.
So do you think that we are in the bull market again now, or do you expect as well the downturn of the price of Bitcoin?
I think we've been in a bull market since November 2022, when FTX went under 15,000 or whatever the price was, and we're up 6x since then. We had a bit of a pullback, 20-30%, very, very natural for a crypto bull market. So I'm very bullish. I've always been bullish, even from January 20th to early April. We reduced our position a bit, but we were still long Bitcoin, long a lot of ETH. We have some structural term sheets that are coming off in relevant projects. So, we've been long the whole time.
Yeah, still it was quite painful to lose like 30% when like such a price difference when you could sell your Bitcoin at $109,000 and then it was down to 75K.
I mean, it depends if you use leverage. We don't use any leverage. So if you use leverage, obviously it's very difficult. These downturns are painful, right? Because you get liquidated, or you have to sell positions, or you have to sell something that you don't really want to sell because you use the leverage. But as a long-only fund, we don't really use any leverage, which helps us sort of not care what the price does, as long as we have a conviction that a long-term macro bet is correct.
Mm-hmm. And what are your expectations from the Trump's policy?
I mean, generally, I think they'll do crypto positive stuff. That doesn't mean that your particular project is going to go up in value. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it on a timeline that makes sense for you. If you're trading a 1-minute candle and you think Trump is supposed to help out you do some speculation at 20x leverage, I think you have you need to adjust your expectations. So I think people's expectations are very, very high, and they think that crypto is the number one thing that Trump needs to focus on. Trump's a politician. He's got a lot of things he's got to focus on. So I think people seem to be patient.
So do you think there may be again some tariffs manipulation and markets going down again?
I think that people do not understand that there's a structural change going on between the US and China, that the imbalances between the two economies will get unwound. It'll take a while. Trump is not the first president to start unwinding it. He's just a symptom of the underlying cause. And so I don't think people should, get too excited or too dismayed in terms of how this tariff, discussion goes.
And as well, during this uncertainty on the market, we saw that gold rose quite a lot. So did you invest into gold, or are you purely in crypto?
I've owned gold for a long time. So I have physical gold in a vault. I own a lot of gold mining equities that I think are still undervalued given the massive rise in price in gold. I think that gold can go much higher from here because central banks are buying gold. And I still believe that the US is going to revalue their gold holdings much higher to depreciate the dollar against gold. So I think gold could be $10,000 to $20,000 by the time we finish with this rally.
So like in 1-2 years, your prediction for the gold?
Yeah, 1 to 2 years.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. That may be even better performance than Bitcoin.
It could be.
So what percentage of your portfolio is in gold?
I don't know, probably like 20%.
Oh, that's quite a lot. And as well, currently there is quite a lot of talks whether Ethereum or Solana. So what's better? What may perform better now?
I think Ethereum has a better performance outlook, mostly because it's very hated. Everyone thinks Ethereum does nothing. They haven't done anything correctly. But number one, it still has the most TVL. It still has the most number of developers. It still has the most secure proof of stake blockchain. Okay, yeah, the price hasn't done as well from 2022 to the current moment. Solana obviously has done very well, $7 to $150, whatever the price is right now. But if I'm going to deploy a fresh unit of fiat capital into the system, I think that Ethereum could outperform Solana in this next sort of like 18, 24 months bull run.
So what are your price targets for Ethereum?
I have no idea. I don't have one. It'll go up.
Because like a lot of people say, okay, you should buy the most hated thing, but still Ethereum had all this TVL, the biggest number of developers, and it didn't perform at all. So like we are lower than we were before, even the previous cycle.
Right, and right now it's if we think that we're on sort of this, when we switch into alt season, whenever that is, I think that Ethereum could run pretty quickly because no one owns it. Everyone's short, and the price creates the narrative. People will figure out a reason why they love ETH because the price is rising. They figure out a way why they hate ETH because the price is falling.
Yeah, and as well with different altcoins which are not like top 10, did you make money or did you lose money?
Yes, I don't know. I don't really track it that. The positions are so small. We make money in the stuff we actually have conviction in. I might lose money in random punts that we take on the portfolio, but we limit the amount of size that we do on these things we have no conviction in, so that if we lose money, it's not that much and we don't care. So that net, big bet on Athena, some other projects, those gains massively outperform anything else in the portfolio where we lose money.
So do you do a lot of DeFi stuff yourself now?
No, we invest in some projects. We don't really do DeFi or sort of like, Loop or some of the other crazy strategies.
Any staking?
Do we do any staking? We stake some stables in Athena to earn the USDE yield, the staked USDE yield. So that's probably the biggest thing in DeFi that we do.
Mm-hmm. So we are now as well in Dubai. So like, what's your opinion about this area, these regions for the crypto? And as well, what are your expectations from Token2049?
Obviously it's a great region. It's in the middle of the world, great time zone. There's a lot of energy here from people all across the world who are in Dubai to sort of, do crypto, whatever that means. So I think, and it's not, raining a lot this time. So I think it's it's going to be a good conference. And I imagine they sold out all the tickets. I think they sold all the tickets. Like 15,000 people are here for Token. So I think it's a great time to be in the crypto ecosystem because we have sort of this reflation happening across the world, more fiat money chasing a scarce asset, and the bull market's going to continue, and I think it's going to be a fun party.
Yeah, they always sell out their tickets. I feel like it's as well some marketing stuff, so that you can invest as well into tickets early and resell them later. It has better performance than Bitcoin. And as well, you made before prediction that Bitcoin will be at 1 million. By which time is your expectation?
I think by the end of Trump's presidency, so end of 2028, Bitcoin will be by around $1 million. Or we'll have caressed $1 million. It might be lower than that at that point, but I think we'll get to that nominal figure within the next 3 to 4 years.
And what rate of deflation of the US dollar we will see in that case?
It depends against what, I don't know. Against another fiat currency, who knows? Because they can all just print the same amount of money and then it stays stable. I think dollar depreciates against gold, dollar depreciates against Bitcoin. US Treasuries are probably the worst thing to own versus any other sort of financial asset out there, as they need to devalue because there's too much out there. So.
And as well, for example, US, you told that Trump tries to be crypto positive, to get some crypto regulations and etc. And as well, he announced US crypto reserve. So what are your thoughts on that? And I've heard that you don't really support the idea of Bitcoin reserve. Why so?
I don't like it when a government owns an asset because what they can buy, they can sell. And so yes, people are very enthusiastic about it now, but what happens if there's another administration, depending on which country you're in, and they decide, oh, there's a bunch of money here sitting here, I want to sell this so I can do whatever government program to help my supporters. And then everyone's freaking out about XYZ government that's going to be selling Bitcoin. So I don't really think it does anything because the government buys and sells things for political reasons, not to make money per se.
So you think it's still a threat because the US has been holding confiscated Bitcoin for many years and they basically didn't sell?
Well, I guess the question is whether they're going to buy more, right? So people are like, oh, there's going to be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. How do they fund it? Are they going to print money to fund it? Are they, how is this going to happen? I think there's too many questions around this. And if you think about it, if I'm a politician and I have to go to the people and say, yeah, I printed a bunch of money so that the Bitcoin bros and girls can go out and buy bottles at the club, I think that's not really a winning political strategy.
Yeah, and now we see the rivalry between US and China as well for the holding Bitcoin. So can you tell how you see this?
I mean, China mines Bitcoin, we know that. It's like 20% of the hash rate is in China. They banned all private mining of Bitcoin, so we have to assume that local governments and the central government or their proxies are mining Bitcoin within China. I don't know how much, if any, the central Chinese government or the PBOC holds of Bitcoin, but I would imagine that the US and China, through various means, probably hold a similar amount of Bitcoin, whether it's from seized assets from convicted criminals or it's from state-sponsored mining activities.
Mm-hmm. And as well, can you tell what's next do you see for crypto this year?
In terms of?
In terms of markets and as well trends.
So I think Bitcoin dominance continues to go up. I think Bitcoin in this next little run could go close to 200,000. And then altcoin season comes around and we'll see some interesting things. And my end of year Bitcoin price target is around 250,000.
Okay, for now you have the highest price target among all people we asked. Yeah, thank you for exciting conversation.
Thank you.